Hello, Smite Draft League, and welcome back. We've got Unstoppable Division for the first time. We got action from them. My name's AnthonyMalum. I'm joined by Ztan on the desk for this. It's the Seismic Shockwaves versus Eclipse. And seeing Unstoppable for the first time in a full regular game, just going to town, going crazy. I am excited, Ztan.
It's looking like it should be a pretty interesting matchup. I'm not as familiar with some of the players in this division, but I know King of Darkness, I know a Giant Dog, I know Jaeger. You were mentioning liore as a player to kind of look out for
Yeah.
after some of these scouting grounds games. So yeah, gonna be very interested to see how they do here. See how some of these teams that have been drafted come together.
Yeah, liore was somebody I was very much impressed by during scouting grounds. I don't remember if it was a divine set or an immortal. I think it was a divine, but liore performed very well. The Morgan Le Fay was the main thing of the characters played that stuck out of my brain. The positioning, I think, was the key factor that stuck out to me, because positioning in low early level play, I should say, is always tough to come by. Somebody who can just naturally know where to stand and where to be during a fight, and it stuck out. But yeah, a lot of new names, which is what we love to see, and one of the cool things about the fourth division. And so far, with the exception of maybe one, I don't want to call it a target ban, but support directed ban, pretty standard bans from what we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, the Marty's definitely there, the Ravana's there. Terra, target banner, no, that god's absurdly strong.
Yeah.
Ganesh, the same could kind of be said for him. He is very good into most team comps. He usually performs pretty well. It's never just a bad thing to get him out of there. Got the Hachi, the Ao Kuang, pretty standard there. Leaves like Rama as one of your strongest carries that's up on the board right now. Freya. Sir Nuno still isn't performing badly. Ishtar. And we've got the Kali locked.
That is a strong first lock-in, and not just because it's a Kali, but Giant Dog, you mentioned, was somebody you recognize. That is a 3-season SDL vet, same as King of Darkness. That's a long time to be playing just with SDL. And interestingly to me, everybody always reminds me, like at the interviews for Divine, Cactus Arms, and Evan, everybody reminds me, Giant Dog isn't a jungle main. Giant Dog plays off-role when he plays jungle. But he's spent 3 seasons now on teams of being the primary jungle spot. So I mean, at some point, your main role's been overtaken.
I feel the man's pain. I don't know how many seasons I got schwinked over into playing carry, and it's like my third role. It's not even my second role. Sometimes you just get stuck doing something, and he's taking it on the chin. He's taking it like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps doing it, and he does perform in it. So the Kali is going to be a great pick there. Now the Kuzenbo is something I want to talk about. I've seen this god. I've seen this god more in the last month than I probably have in the last 4 years. And it's working. It's working so well. And I don't know if it's kind of this scenario where like people forgot how to play against him and now he's good for a few weeks.
True.
Or if the itemization changes have really made him that wild.
I'd really like it into the Kali as well. I mean, that's one of the best things you can do against a Kali, is just displace Kali when she goes into destruction and she's trying to tear through your team. There isn't many answers for that. One answer we commonly see is Regurgitate from Buckser, being a good response, but I like the Kuzenbo. I think it almost offers more, because you can basically disrupt the entire flow of Kali's kit. Being Kali can just become useless. The Nejat does very similar stuff to Kali, and Discordia, I think, wraps everything up in a neat little package with what you can do with Strife as well.
Yeah, the Kuzenbo and the Naja both have the capability to effectively keep Kali out of a fight for the entire duration of her ult. And that value just cannot be overvalued. That's huge. Jormungandr.
Yeah, I was about
Baba
to talk
Yaga.
about the Jormungandr Baba Yaga combo, because looking at that combo, I feel like I mean, you mentioned mid as your main, and you have more competitive experience playing than I have. Mine's all casting. But what I always see with Jormungandr and Baba Yaga as a combo is you can't comfortably position as a team. You can't stand here and you can't stand here because if you do, you're just going to get disrupted and displaced, and now you're probably half health.
Yeah, and Baba Yaga can be very hard to position into to begin with. She can be very hard to dive. Speaking of which, though, Cucullin. Cucullin makes diving just a breeze. He's nuts. The way that the items are working right now, as good as tanks are, I'm honestly surprised I don't see more Cucullin. I've yet to see him perform badly.
Yeah, and every time you do, especially in that first like level 2 to 4 range, once that passive kicks in, it always feels like there's the highest,
Wisdom
if
shall
not
be
one of the
my
highest
shield.
kill potentials there for solo. And we talked about when we did Immortal, that kind of lower upper kind of mid-range level competitive play, what matters there. In lower level competitive play, it's silly as it sounds, a lot of times what matters is just curb stomping your lane opponent and snowballing.
Yeah, and Cucullin definitely brings that potential, but we have to assume he's going to be going into the Jormungandr here. And Yorm is one of the few that kind of does have the potential to outright box Cucullin. Yorm's early damage is something out of a nightmare.
And not too affected by most of what Cucullin brings either. Not really. Jormungandr's not too afraid of what Cucullin's bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention, he's going to have the Athena there. So the potential of that Defender of Olympus is an active threat at all times. So even if Cucullin does get in there and by chance Yorm doesn't have his ult up to escape, he's got help anyway.
That's true. That solo lane will be one to look at. Every lane will be one to look at. But let's stop waiting. Let's see what Unstoppable's got. Let's get into game. No more waiting, no more scrims. It's time for Unstoppable Division to show the Smite Draft League what it's got. We got Eclipse on order side and the Seismic Shockwaves on the Chaos side. I'm AnthonyMalum once again, and I'm joined by Ztan. Ztan, take me through quickly, not quickly, but the quick start. Like, what do you expect to see in the laning phases here? Because we've got a lot of kind of polar opposites in good matchups for each team back and forth between the Rom into the Cardanos and the Cucullin into the Jormungandr like we talked about.
Yeah, immediately off the bat, duo lane, Rama should, in a perfect world, outclear Cernunnos. Now, if King of Darkness is applying the Kuzenbo pressure effectively, Rama may not have that opportunity. So duo, I'm really kind of hinging on the Kuzenbo performance. Solo, Cucullin, Yorm shouldn't really kill each other unless Yorm gets real aggressive on those first couple of waves when Cucullin's going to be raging. My matchup to look for here is going to be in the mid lane. This mid 2v2, the Kali Baba Yaga, the Discordian Naja, and here we go.
Yeah, the Naja doing exactly what you're looking for. Already has the ItalianCrayon poked out. SimonSaysSmite is somebody who we are not familiar with in the Smite Draft League, so somebody we're looking to see perform, certainly. And the Strife catches two, and so does the damage. Liore gets one, and SimonSaysSmite gets the other. It's two for first blood for the Seismic Shockwaves, and they made it look so pretty.
Yeah, that was just plain old stayed too long. ItalianCrayon, Giant Dog, they didn't have great health pulls after that first little scuffle, and you got to back off there. It's not worth your life.
Sweaty's in some trouble and very low and just has nowhere to go. So Shadow will pick up the kill onto the Rama. 3 unanswered kills going the way of Seismic Shockwaves early on here. before we hit 2 minutes even, which is, you know, par for the course, what we expected. But I gotta say, while we expected chaos and a lot of kills, the way these kills are coming in is so far from Seismic Shockwaves, trip myself up, is so clean and just it's so dressed up. Their side of things has looked way higher than Unstoppable so far, as early as it is.
Yeah, you know, the nausea, that value can't be understated. The sash, the windfire wheels, they're great displacement abilities, they're great setup abilities, and he's using it well. You know, the Kuzenbo over in the duo lane is doing his job well. He's not even really, you know, aiming to help clear all that much here. He was just running at Rama.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want Kuzenbo in that Rama's face because Rama outclears your Cernunnos. Rama can't outclear Cernunnos if his face is getting planted into a wall.
Yeah, that's true. What's the best form of CC in Smite? Killing somebody. You can't beat that, and when you combo with the amount of pressure they have, that's how you get to that killing conclusion. We're seeing more of it here. King of Darkness pulling Riblet back into the wave, but Shadows ramble a little bit to the left, so no root on Riblet, so no follow-up damage. Now,
yeah, you know, you don't have to worry about peeling
yeah.
for your carry if they're dead.
Yeah, see, you hit it. You hit my point. We're same brain right now, so let me pick your brain about something.
Okay.
New to competitive is something that is tough to be. Unstoppable is no longer challenger. It's not inherently players who are new to competitive. There's just some players who may have dropped down to unstoppable. Sure. But there are a lot of names that we're not familiar with. I'm looking at the SimonSaysSmites, I'm looking at the ItalianCrayons, the Riblets, so on and so forth. There is no better time to make your name known than the first set. Is there pressure there in the traditional sense, or is it more of a almost like if you're an ego player, if you're in the jungle, are you almost just trying to have fun and trying to ignore any nerves from competitive and be like, let me just go crazy in a scrim and do some damage, like we're seeing SimonSaysSmite do. Giant dog, he responds with destruction and should be able to get away, but they're going to go for the chase. The strife hits, and the blink from Simon cleans it up. So there's part of my answer, I guess.
Yeah, so much for should be able to get away. You know, I think I don't know that I would say there's going to be pressure on them, but I would imagine that, you know, part of the reason that some of these guys did, you know, drop through the drafts kind of into this division was because no one knew them. No one had really seen them outside of a scouting grounds game or two, and kind of decided to draft more with familiarity. So I'd have to imagine that there's going to be not so much pressure, but a desire to kind of prove themselves, show what they can do, show what some of these captains might have missed out on. And, you know, so far, first one that jumps to mind here for me is Liore and SimonSaysSmite. These two are cooking over in that mid lane. You know, Simon hasn't made a lot of rotations to the outside lanes, but here in this mid lane, they are dominant.
And being that they're new together, maybe that's just something clicked in comms right away, and they're wanting to stick by it and roll with it. Giant Dog got a bit pressured out at their own green buff and did have to retreat, but Riblet was there with the ultimate to keep Giant Dog safe. And to kind of further on that too, this is different. Again, it's Unstoppable. It's not Challenger. We did that rename for a reason. It's its own division. So at this point, I mean, you can make a name for yourself, but you're not getting traded for from some guy in Immortal who needs a new jungler. You are here, and if it turns out that you were some hidden gem pub stomper, I mean, you're going to be remaining here. So this is a lot of exploration for not just the teams we're watching, but the other teams in the division. SimonSaysSmite just misses the sash on the Giant Dog, but Strife hits and a lot of follow-up damage, but the Kali able to get to the safety of the tower in time.
Yeah, you know, for Eclipse here, you're in a really rough spot in this mid lane. You're getting out pressured, and you're on Kali and Baba Yaga, two gods that need some time to wind up. You know, Kali's at her best 4 items in, you know, 17 minutes, 20 minutes into the game, and you know, that time's now getting pushed to the 24-minute mark maybe before she hits that. And so this pressure that's coming out of the mid here is gonna pay dividends for Seismic Shockwaves later on.
We did see during that there was a purple buff invade that went the way of Seismic Shockwaves. It did cost the Watery Grave to get it, but they ended up getting it regardless. Currently, 4-0 Seismic Shockwaves, having a strong start, but not as strong as the first couple minutes. We talked about the 3 unanswered, and since then we've only added 1, and the gold lead is nothing to be too panicked about right now if you are an Eclipse fan. And the bigger thing I'd look at is the light lead in that 2v2 combo. We see level 10 to level 9 in mid and 8 to 7 in jungle. And like you said, that pressure from those 2v2s are going to be kind of what sets the pace for this game. SimonSaysSmite going for the gank in duo did walk over a ward, and the Athena ultimate was enough for Simon to turn around and disappear. Windfire wheels through the taunt to ensure safety. Giant Dog rotated as well, but it was a bit too late. So free of charge for Simon Says, but did use that ultimate.
Yeah, they did commit like the Defender of Olympus, and you know, Naja did have to commit ult to get out of that. All around though, net win. You got a very big displacement ult out from the opposing team, and you know, all it cost you was your Athena ult and walking up the lane. So not too big of a deal there. Athena's definitely going to want to get some cooldown online here very shortly, because that ult's going to be huge to have up.
Bit of a scuffle at Pyromancer, but nobody's fully committed yet. Giant Dog and Riblet will both disengage. The majority of the poke has gone on to ItalianCrayon on that Baba Yaga. And we're constantly seeing those scuffles by the Harpies and the Pyro Pit, and I feel like that's where 90% of these early kills are coming from across all the divisions. I'm starting to wonder as our season goes on, because we're not able to see SPL right now, if we're going to see that become a high priority movement. SimonSaysSmite had a gank attempt, but did not fully pick up the kill. Just got some strong poke out, and Shockwaves will retreat. Eclipse will reset and do the same, and have some time to kill. A gank in duo from the Kali, snipes from Sweaty, but the Carnos gets away. So again, we're staying at that 4-0 mark, Ztan. There's little things everywhere that keep popping up, but nothing has been a full commit from either side.
No, and you know, well, now Darkness is pretty low on mana here, but they're just gonna kind of, you know, back off of that. I was gonna say, you know, full commitments at this phase in the game, especially with the addition of this beacon, it can really make you nervous to throw out these full commitments when you're so close to these objectives coming up. You know, you got a little over 2 minutes before that beacon comes up. Gold Fury is already up, and if you full commit here and botch it, you're giving up so much.
Riblet gets pulled back from King of Darkness after being stuck in the strife, but liore and Simon Says not in the perfect position to commit. liore already at the level 12 mark. SimonSaysSmite doing a lot to set up for that Discordia. They're making that combo work. It's not, you know, when you think of Neja and a mid combo, that isn't the one that comes to mind, but it's a good one nonetheless. Simon Says took a lot of poke, but it did not stop the Neja from dropping the Kali. Giant Dog hits the grayscale, and that's now 3 kills for the Naja.
Yeah, Giant Dog needs to prioritize his farm here. This is definitely the point where you need to kind of take a step back. You know, look at what you're doing, and these engagements aren't working out in your favor. You're starting to get behind in the farm. Now's the time you want to kind of rotate around to your camps and make sure you're getting it.
Sweaty's really trying to take this 1v1, and he wasn't getting the better of it at first, but now is. King of Darkness on the way over, and Shadow not backing up was enough for the Rama to understand what was happening, and the dash back creates the space. Giant Dog also kind of looming around, just lurking in case things break out, and Sweaty steps up again. This Carnos is being wild staying that close to Rama with ultimate.
Well, he knows he's got help. Right, and Rama Sweaty knows that he knows he's got help. Because like if a man is running at you who has literally a third of the health you do, somebody else is there.
A lot of people are here in the Stygian Beacon area, and Jaeger finds a kill on SimonSaysSmite. 4-man knockup from Crusader in response. Stygian Beacon, however, will go to Eclipse. Nothing the Shockwaves could do but watch and try to make some plays happen towards the latter half of the zone capture, but Eclipse will get the better of it and walk away. They do have a kill on the board finally after dropping SimonSaysSmite. So 1-5, Seismic Shockwaves have the lead. Gold still insignificant difference. And the XP leads are starting to catch up. The biggest one we see is in jungle.
Yeah, I mean, Eclipse are farming well. You know, you look at your mini-map, and apart from the jungle camps that have kind of just come up, nothing's up. Everything's being claimed. It's all being farmed. They're making their timers well. And it really shows in the statistics here. You know, they're 4 kills down, but they're only 800 gold off. So somewhere in there, their farming is making up that differential.
And with the farming making up the differential, and the Kali being a character who not only is the one that's behind, but is somebody who historically and will always be someone who needs to be ahead to matter. And that's got to be something that changes, and it's got to change quickly. SimonSaysSmite contesting the shield buff with some help from King of Darkness, but everybody at Eclipse gets away for the spin to win can catch them and set up for Simon, but they're still diving. King of Darkness leads the way, but the sash off the mark on Riblet. Liore was also here to follow up. The Strife misses too, and Riblet's able to back around the bounces. So the Shockwaves commit a lot. Not too much, but enough. Eclipse doesn't really have to pay still. ItalianCrayon is way too far ahead. Blastoff gets caught by the sash. Windfire brings him up on the landing. It's going to be a Strife waiting, but the Strife only found Riblet, and ItalianCrayon still gets to back away lucky. That's a count your stars moment for ItalianCrayon.
I can't call it lucky. That right there is why Baba Yaga is absurd. That Warlock staff, the mitigation she gets on her 3, the shield she gets from her ult, any other mid laner in the game, except maybe arguably Zhonghui, gets taken up into that right there at this phase in the game, they're dead. Baba survives. And, you know, we have to assume she's going to get a prophetic in the build somewhere here. She's went for the Warlocks, the Charons. Next item, looking like maybe a Spirideso or a Divine Ruin. Once that prophetic comes online, Baba's tanky. Baba's real tanky.
Pyromancer currently being started up by Eclipse. Liore lurking, ready to make a steal attempt, and has all the time to wait, and they have a ward on top of it as well. Pyro's down low, but the Strife steals it away! The Shockwaves get the Pyro, and they're going to take Riblet with it. Crusader will get the ultimate credit. That is as unlucky can get for the Eclipse, but that was as calculated could get for the Shockwaves. Liore with just the perfect positioning, and the ward was even better.
Yeah, Liore is positioning himself very, very well. You know, the Discordia kit, her 3, while it is a movement and it's got an iframe, it's a very short range. So it's not going to get you out of much. Sure. And he's positioning very, very well here to stay alive in these fights, to, you know, steal these objectives, to stay alive the whole time, and he's casting, and it's showing.
There was a gank in duo. We see that the Discordia is over there, but Eclipse was able to get away safely. If not barely, but they did get away. It did cost a few ultimates off the board, Riblets as well. Defender of Olympus being down is notable. Now, the Shockwaves are going to walk over to Gold Fury, and Eclipse doesn't have too much of an answer for this. And it's dropping quick. Riblet's close enough for a steal attempt, but the Shockwaves get it. The 3-man taunt came out and got 3, but did not help get the gold away. So Shockwaves now will have a gold lead finally. 2K. 1-6 favoring the Shockwaves in 16 minutes. Riblet brought to the sky. On the landing, gonna be lots of waiting. Now pushed into a wall, knocked up. Every CC you can find. And SimonSaysSmite now has the 4th kill for their Neja. The Shockwaves are cooking at 7-1.
Yeah, Eclipse is getting... we're approaching territory here where things are starting to get out of hand. You've got a 3-level deficit out of your support. You got a 3-level deficit in jungle. Those are roles that matter. Like we just saw, the Athena died in the jungle there. She's 3 levels down. That's the last thing you want to see, is that deficit get any higher. Kali's behind. You're approaching really tough territory to fight or contest anything here.
Yeah. So Beacon opening up soon, and I have a question for you, Ztan. It's just kind of popping up to me.
Okay.
I've neglected to point it out so far because I noticed it. Then I'm gonna be honest, I got distracted by the ganking. Bracer on the Athena here. I'm curious. We'll have to wait till after this beacon for the full answer, but it still matters because at only level 9, a while away from that 2nd relic, and Bracer is the slot committed for the Athena. Here, Darkness taunted in. Jaeger from behind. In between 3, Crusader not able to do too much about it. Simon Says catches up, gets the sash on the giant dog, beads in response, and jump away. Beacon started up, almost captured by Eclipse. Shockwaves going to look to contest. They get into the pit. House is used, and Crusader's chasing down the Baba Yaga and finds it. All the mitigations didn't matter that time. Next up could be Riblet, very low execute range for King of Darkness, so has to step back. Excuse me, not execute range, but Mark on King of Darkness could take a lot of damage here. Dashing forward onto Jaeger. They'll find him. Simon Says gets the credit for it. Meanwhile, the Rama not able to rotate, so Beacon will go to the Seismic Shockwaves.
So, to answer your question, that Bracer, not a fan. Not a fan at all. Shell would have been more useful in this slot. Med even would have been more useful in this slot. Frenzy. Blink. Or, God forsake beads.
Yeah,
you could have definitely used a beads here. Almost just anything other than that Bracer. The idea behind it is nice. You're, trying to give your team that buff that they can kind of back in and out of and help with some of these fights. But, hindsight being 2020, you're now this far down. That Bracer's not helping you fight.
And it really forces you in the 2nd relic to go a team relic too.
Yeah, which is going to kind of make Athena a very easy target moving forward, because she's not going to be able to commit that slot for beads or something, kind of what you might call a greedy support relic. She's not going to be able to do it. She's going to have a shell or something in that slot. So with the CC coming out of Seismic Shockwaves, she's going to be very easy to pick off in these fights.
While we have our slight lapse, let's keep talking the stuff on the lower part of the screen. A Demon Blade pickup for the Rama. Crit isn't something we haven't seen this season. A lot of times we're seeing that Gilded Arrow turn into Ornate Arrow with a Deathbringer at the end, but Demon Blade hasn't found its way into a build in a while.
I still honestly think it's if you are going the crit route, right? Like the Boomerang is good if you are mindful about watching those pickups. But if you're not confident in your ability to do that...
Confident enough is SimonSaysSmite, brought up Riblet on the landing. Shadow cleaned it up. Eclipse now forced
he almost got out.
Gold Fury. It was close. That's kind of been the story for Riblet, right? It feels like every time we see Riblet alone, there's always a chance of getting away, but it's just not clean enough. Jormungandr here to help contest Primal Fury. It's low. It's going to go to Eclipse. They managed to get it. Apple of Discord goes wide left. Couldn't find Giant Dog. Simon Says going to hard commit forward with a blink forward. Could not find it. Left side. Sweaty found the kill on the Shadow. So Kernanos hits the grayscale. And the Shockwaves are split up more so than we've seen in a while, which leads to the second kill for Eclipse, looking for more than that. Simon turns around to find the Rama, but gets caught out. Now snipes come out from the Rom, and it was an easy target. The Neja goes 6 feet under. King of Darkness maybe soon to follow. It's a double kill for the Rama, dashing forward for more, looking for Crusader, who's just a bit too tanky. So the Eclipse will not chase down the Shockwaves, and the Shockwaves showed good disengage, but the sloppiest fight we've seen. And Ztan, it matters because I'll draw attention to the scoreboard again. It's 4-10, which feels like it should be Shockwaves, but the gold is non-existent. It's not different. Rama is ahead of Kernanos, and now Eclipse is able to pull the Fire Giant. Liore on the way to contest, so is Crusader. Fire Giant's at a quarter. Liore gonna get to the pit in time. They're trying to play defense. Taunt on Liore. Crusader's in the pit. Eclipse gets the Fire Giant. Now Yorm and Rama will chase out the Discordia. The dash forward from Rama forces the Aegis. Liore needs one basic to get dropped, but the Jormungandr will find it. We also saw the Giant Dog got picked off by Crusader, who returns to the fight, will find Rama, starts getting poked off by Rama and has to retreat, but now Eclipse is split and Rama's in trouble. The Jormungandr may have to play Sacrificial Lamb to get the Rama away, but did some good damage on his own. Simon will turn, though, and that will be the end of the Yorm. 6 kill for the Neja, and Eclipse only lost 2, but that could have been cleaner.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an overextension from Eclipse. You know, as far behind in XP as your jungle and support are, really taking any extended fight here, even with FG, is a little dangerous. You do have Rama ahead, and that's very good. But you know, the thing Eclipse kind of need to remember here is Riblet is not very tanky yet. He's got the Thebes, he's got the Binding and the Spectral, but he's not quite there yet. And so these fights, they're going to have to be taken very carefully, because Riblet's not going to live as long as King of Darkness. That Rama from ahead is going to do wonders, but right now, taking that fire was almost a scenario of like, we just want it so they can't have it. We're not really going to be able to push up and team fight all that much with it, but they're not getting it. Kali needs time to catch up.
A lot of time, and the time's not on the side of Eclipse right now. I mean, the damage coming out from Seismic Shockwaves is significant, and the Rama being ahead of the Kernanos and going that crit build is that big difference for Eclipse. I wouldn't venture so far as to say without that, Eclipse isn't even contesting in this game. Stygian Beacon fight breaks out. Jormungandr started the fight, but it looks like the Shockwaves are looking to finish it. Simon says, come on up. Simon says, go to the grayscale. Snipe in return from Rama, just trying to survive. Crusader will be waiting on the landing. Dash up, though, for the Rama. He gets away, but Shadow cleans up the Jormungandr in the back line. Giant Dog caught out, but Crusader couldn't find that one. But that's 2 people down for Eclipse. The Rama had to back and heal, so the Shockwaves will get the beacon without any contest at the latter half.
So this is kind of what I was talking about. You know, what was the first thing that happened in that fight? Riblet tried to help his team engage, and because he is so far behind, his health pool evaporated in a matter of seconds. And the team kind of got pushed down behind that. And so that's why I was saying earlier, you know, Eclipse need to be careful where they're taking these fights. When you're that far down in XP and items, one win does not constitute a we own the map now.
Right.
One win it constitutes we got to win, and that's great, and we need to continue to build on this. Not necessarily an all-out engage. I really want to see Giant Dog getting some items online here. That's what Eclipse need, because the good thing about Kali, Once you hit the late game, you're there. If you can push it that far, and she's going to do great. But he's got to get there.
That's going to be the key. Eclipse certainly going to try to make it happen, and the Shockwaves can do everything they can not to. Look at Riblet. Look at the health. Look at the lack of. Already down to a quarter. Simon backs up after going in. Snipes come out just to survive. Again, Crusader was diving deep. Snipes aim for Simon. Find two, but he has to land. Has to try to escape. Almost gets caught in strife. Apple of Discord did not find a home. Everything else seems to have. And Seismic Shockwaves are pushing forward. They run into Giant Dog, who uses Destruction, but stays a bit too long. Just now jumps away. ItalianCrayon also caught out and brought into the sky. And on the landing will die for another kill for SimonSaysSmite, make it 8. Riblet also alone, but able to get away. And the Shockwaves have one of their best fights in a while, making the lead 15-5, and now up 4K gold, and they're pushing their Titan down the duo lane.
Yeah, I don't know that they have the help for a Phoenix push here. Yep, it looks like they are gonna realize that and back off. You know, last thing you want to do when you've got some momentum going is to throw it.
Yeah, they could have cheddar bopped right there really easy.
So very glad to see them kind of recognize that, back off here. Looks like they're probably going to head over towards Pyro. You know, I don't think they're going to try and pull fire with that kind of help. But great call from the Shockwaves. Good fight.
28 minutes, you would almost think it's best with the kind of momentum they've got going to reset and come back, board up, and then prepare for EFG, since that's around the corner.
Yeah, if I'm Shockwaves, I'm definitely looking for the EFG here. If I'm Eclipse, maybe we send Rama up to try and throw a snipe, but I would not full commit on an FG defense here, which it is kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. You know, EFG uncontested is bad. Any way you draw that up, it's not good to give it up uncontested, but sometimes you need to.
I want to touch back on something we talked about earlier really quickly. It looks like Rama is going Keen's last item, which means Demon Blade will be the sole crit item outside of Ornate Arrow, so no Deathbringer for the Rama, so worth noting for those damage numbers. Riblet caught in no man's land while we were talking about it. 3-man knock-up in response, but not going to be enough to get Riblet out of there. Shockwaves already dropped the support and looking for Rama as well, but the damage is good enough to get Cullen to back off, and Snipes will follow. Crusader is so low, but Sweaty didn't see that, so shot down below at Shadow. Giant Dog did find Simon Says and could find Crusader as well. While Hunt will stop it, however, King of Darkness blinks forward and finds the dash to keep Giant Dog away. Liore dropped to Rama in the meantime, and ItalianCrayon finds the Kernanos. So we're down to a 2v2, and the Shockwaves are full disengaging. Eclipse looking for stragglers, but not going to overcommit. Did run into King of Darkness, but he's able to get away. I can't fathom how that turned into a 3-for-3, Ztan, so I'll let you try to dissect that.
So I want to touch on what you were talking about because it's very important to that fight. You were mentioning, you know, the Demon Blade being the only crit other than the starter item. Now, that starter item provides a significant amount of crit chance. I want to say at full stacks, it's like a 35% crit chance. On top of an attack speed increase, the 20%, I believe, from Demon Blade. He hit 16 stacks towards the end of that fight, and he's running an almost 50% crit chance there. You know, you would typically want to see the Deathbringer just for the increased damage on it, but that's kind of where that fight went. He started hitting crits very consistently on the back end of it, and Cullen just now got that Spectral built, and there's no Spectral on the side of the Shockwaves. That damage was just too much.
It did matter a lot, but what started the fight was Riblet getting caught out. And it almost happened again. We almost had a deja vu all over again. But Riblet gets away. And Eclipse will look to set up again around this EFG. Shockwaves are all rolling up, minus SimonSaysSmite, who is on the left side of the map. Not quite caught out, however, so we'll see if Eclipse forces the issue and realize that they're a man up. And so far, they're doing it lightly, and Riblet makes it not so lightly with a dash forward, but no taunt yet. Saving taunt. King of Darkness runs into him, and the Apple of Discord came from the side as well, and Riblet is feeling the problems of not being tanky enough. Snipes look for King of Darkness, could not find a home. SimonSaysSmite finds Riblet, and ItalianCrayon gets one back against King of Darkness. Windfire wheels up from SimonSays while Crusader runs down the Rama, and that's going to mean 3 down for Eclipse, only 1 down on Shockwaves. Giant Dog too low to do anything about it. So the Shockwaves turned EFG, but now they're looking at Tier 2 Tower, and the Jormungandr will be the main response.
This could be a Phoenix here very easily. You've got a lot of time before the rest of Eclipse show up to this.
Liore gets poked out pretty quickly, has to try to get away, but SimonSaysSmite was able to find a kill on the Giant Dog in the back line, and it turns into a D-side going the way of Seismic Shockwaves, and they've got their eyes on the Titan. They're missing Liore, who was low and had it back up. Riblet just respawned. Titan at half health. Riblet goes in, 2-man taunt, pulls him away. Crusader's too low. Titan brings him down, but the Titan didn't have enough health, and the Seismic Shockwaves will steal game 1 towards the end away from Eclipse. And that's our first look at the Eclipse animation. And I don't know what has you so in shock. I don't know if it's the ending of that game and the call from the Shockwaves, or the animation, or both.
What an ending. What an ending. I predicted the Phoenix would fall, potentially. Not in a million years. Not in a million years did I think with those health bars that they would just march into the Titan room with basic non-enhanced minions at their side.
You know, I'll drop STL lore. That was a Season 1 Harbinger's end call. I haven't seen one aggressive from a non-godlike team in a very long time, but that was insane.
Do you know what prompted those end calls? It was you and Fish on the cast when y'all would talk about how we were too hesitant to end. And so there were a couple of them where we were just like, you know what? We're tired of hearing it. End it.
I respect it. And hey, to our credit, it worked. So maybe we knew what we were talking about at least a little bit. But let's look at stats from this game, because there's 2 I want to talk about from the Seismic Shockwaves. I mean, a lot of people deserve credit, but there's 2 I want to focus on for what could continue for the rest of the set. And then 1 I'd like to talk about for Eclipse. And we'll start with the Shockwaves. I'm looking at SimonSaysSmite and Liore. And then I'm looking at Sweaty for Eclipse, Ztan.
So Simon and Liore played that extremely well. I think I touched on it, towards the earlier part of that game. Liore was positioning very well with the Discordia. Simon on this Naja was destructive. He's got lower damage than a couple of the other people in the lobby, but it's not necessarily about how much damage you have. It's about when you're doing it. And he was doing it exactly when he needed to be. The kills are getting secured. He's keeping people displaced. He played that Naja spectacularly. Sweaty did a great job on the Rama. They managed to turn a couple of these fights and almost kind of mount a comeback there. And so if I'm Eclipse, that's kind of what I'm looking to build on moving into this second game. So we've seen the matchups now. We've seen where our strengths lie. So if I'm Eclipse, I'm looking to play through that duo.
The duo will be the key. I'm also looking for Giant Dog to have a bounce back performance, and because we know what Giant Dog can do. I mean, there's not a single person who has watched more than half a season of a Smite Draft League and doesn't know that Giant Dog can perform. But I don't know if it was the pick, or if it was the setup for the pick, or if it was the response to the pick from Eclipse.
I'd wager it was the response. that was a tough matchup to try and play Kali into. There was just so much there that could just say, no, Kali, you don't play the game today.
Especially the Kuzenbo. I feel like that was something I want to say we overlooked it. We didn't even touch on it. We said that this is a problem for the Kali, but it didn't really show its head until Kali mattered the most. You kept saying Kali's got to get online. We're waiting on Kali. Once Kali gets to endgame, Kali exists no matter how bad your early game was. And that was all true. But we saw once that happened, Giant Dog tried so hard to get aggressive and to make plays happen, but he just ultimately got shut down and got shut down hard because of the Kuzenbo. We saw it at the Fire Giant. He went to loop around a corner, had his target being Crusader that could have changed the course of the entire fight, but Watery Grave knocked them around.
Crusader being someone we didn't touch on a lot at the post-game screen, but, he was 10K above anybody else on the map in player damage, had a great stat line, and played his role very well. That Cucullin looked fantastic.
Eclipse taking Kali off the board, not wanting to play it themselves and run it back, and making sure that SimonSaysSmite does not get their hands on it. And the Alquang ban comes back out as well. The Yorm ban is interesting because I feel like the Yorm was the biggest shining spot for Eclipse that we didn't touch on. Same thing with Crusader.
Yeah, the solos both performed well. Yorm struggles into high CC matchups because of his passive. Every time he's hit with it, he's not going to go anywhere, but he is going to take increased damage.
Yeah.
And, it does make it tough to play into some of these high CC comps like that.
No barrier to our
Ganesh.
success.
A locked in instantly, and we did see that banned game one. We saw Eclipse take that away from Cave of Darkness. That was what I was referring to when I had mentioned, kind of in passing, that it was probably a combination of a target ban for player plus just being good. You mentioned the same thing, but now it's locked down for King of Darkness, and in response, Eclipse again just keeping things from the Seismic Shockwaves. They pick up Discordia for ItalianCrayon to keep it away from Liore and pick it for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call on their part. Like we talked about, Liore performed very well on this Discordia. Too many other gods you need to ban, so your best option there is to play it.
What do you think about picking up the Hachi here for Sweaty? Because I kind of feel like if the Rama wasn't banned, I understand that Hachi is a priority pick over Rama, but I feel like Sweaty performed really well on Rama. We saw one mistake, and it was when Sweaty didn't see that they could have sniped out Crusader, and now the Rama gets taken away, and you've got Shadow running that as opposed to what presumably would have been a Hachimon. Would you have preferred to stick with the comfort, or do you kind of like how this has worked out for the ADCs?
Time to eat.
I'm going to give a hot take here and just state for the record that I think Rama is the best hunter in the game right now.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you there, certainly.
I think it was a mistake to move to the Hachi when the Rama was available. I think with the changes to Silver Branch and some of the items that are moving around, some of the nerfs that Hachi has received, I think Rama is better.
I would have built around the Rama, honestly. I would have made that a priority pick and centered our team, or my team, if had it been Eclipse, is what I'm trying to say here, around the idea of Sweaty running back that Rama. I would have tried to build a front line to kind of let him sit back and do that damage, and try to, because you don't have to run the crit, which was an added benefit in that particular game, but Rama does good otherwise, and Sweaty played it great. So it is odd to see them step away, but I guess Hachi isn't the worst pickup, but we'll move on to
he's
the
absolutely
jungle.
not.
We'll move on to the jungle and we'll talk about Baka, because I know you have hot takes on Baka as well and how Baka should be played. So I just want to keep the Ztan takes rolling.
Baka is really good, but he does kind of have that issue where, like, if you run in and you blow your wad and there's no return on it, your team is effectively left without a jungle until your ult comes back up. That's the one caveat to playing Baka, is like, You have to make your decisions well, and you have to get return on them. Otherwise, the pick is useless.
Your terror comes
So-
to an end.
Great pick. And after Simon's performance on the Naja, I'm going to go further to say that he's probably going to do very well on this Bakasura. My big pick here for Eclipse is this Achilles and the Shiva.
Yeah, that's a scary front line.
Both of those gods are just kind of insane right now. Shiva and Achilles are both performing extremely well. They are by themselves going to make Baka's job very difficult. I'm assuming that's a Shiva support. That would be my assumption. Achilles can play support, but it's pretty rare.
Also worth
Now-
noting that the Sasana was banned too, which is a main character for Giant Dog. So if that Achilles goes to the jungle, which we have seen a couple of times, that could have really, we could see a huge throw off here for Seismic Shockwaves.
Stunning.
Oh, but there's the solo laner. All right, now I see Ztan's brain's really cooking. So just to wrap up before you go crazy, we've got a Giannis and a Cthulhu cleaning up and rounding out Seismic Shockwaves. An Eclipse pick up Chunga for presumably and assumedly the solo lane.
That could be a Chang'e support.
All right, now you're really cooking.
Crazier things have happened. I just saw a Cthulhu locked post Achilles pick. Crazy things happen every day, Anthony.
They do. I'm excited to see, but the answers lie in game. Let's head into game. But first, check out the swords. Hello and welcome back. Again, Seismic Shockwaves versus Eclipse. My name's AnthonyMalum and I'm joined by Ztan, and we've got an interesting one here. We know where they've gone, and it's actually a Chunga jungle. So we both got rolled.
I have been bamboozled on a cosmic scale here. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for a Chang'e jungle. I don't hate it though, and I will tell you why. What do you need out of a jungle? You need quick engage, burst, and some lockdown. A Chang'e with Blink being played correctly brings every bit of that.
I have one counter for you. I have a counter thought, and it's something that I thought about off something you said. You pointed out that they locked in a Cthulhu after an Achilles. Do you think this was a last-second decision / change when they saw that Cthulhu? Like maybe that Chang'e was gonna be Chang'e solo, but they were like, wait, there's a Cthulhu, and Achilles kind of just rolls through a Cthulhu, and maybe they had a last-second trade. Because I wouldn't put it completely out of possibility.
I mean, the Cthulhu pick, you had to know it was going solo. Next to no one in their right minds is playing Cthulhu in support. He just doesn't fit the role. He really never has. His kit's not great for it. He has oftentimes been a very strong solo presence. So as soon as that's locked, you pretty much have to know that that's the matchup that's going on. And Achilles' strength into Cthulhu, when Cthulhu goes into that ult, his health pool gets wild, he's huge, and Achilles brings the capability to just execute him in it.
First blood will go the way of Eclipse, as the Hachiman, with some help from Giant Dog, was able to pick up a kill on the King of Darkness. So Eclipse starts off game 2 much differently and get themselves ahead.
Yeah, the Chang'e jungle. Rotations were made, kill was secured. Great job from those three there. I honestly, the more and more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm liking this Chang'e pick into the Bakasura. Bakasura jumps in, the Regurgitate comes out, Chang'e can immune most of that and then immediately stun him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this man's playing in 2030. Like I'm starting to like it. Make me a believer, Giant Dog. Make me a believer.
Eclipse have a lot of duo lane pressure, and Giant Dog is lurking and will help steal away / secure the purple buff for Eclipse. The Shockwaves are going to look to contest, but they're not going to be able to step up very far. I like the pressure on duo, because after what we saw in game 1, it's clear that there's a lot of threats on the side of Eclipse, and if you can get if you can get the Hachiman ahead, I really like what that does for you.
Yeah, Hachi feels pretty good all around, and like any god, he feels even better when you're ahead. Sweaty was a big part of your performance in the first game. So, you know, like we talked about on the desk, if I'm Eclipse, I'm going to try and play through Sweaty. He seemed to be one of your brighter points in that game, and so, you know, making this game about playing through duo, not a bad plan.
Going off of that, Liore, that's somebody who I pointed out to you as somebody I wanted to watch for. We saw a very strong game number 1 on that Discordia that was taken away by the ItalianCrayon. So, on this Giannis, a very different feel, but Giannis is a character that rewards good positioning. I kind of expect that to be a sleeper pick for this game.
With all of the ones that I've had escape through a wall, I'd also argue that Giannis is a character that rewards bad positioning. You know, no, the Giannis pick has really kind of risen up the last little bit here, and he's kind of moved up in the meta. They gave him some extra scaling on his ult. Riblet going down.
SimonSaysSmite with a gank in the dual lane that caught us a little off guard. He's going to pick up the nice kill on the Riblet, so that's one for the Baka. And if there's one thing that any level experience caster, commentator, viewer, fan, player, coach will tell you, it's don't give Bakasura kills. Don't give him one. Don't give him an assist. Starve him of everything you can. So a good start for SimonSaysSmite.
Yeah, you know, a lot of gods have snowball potential. It's a MOBA. It is what it is. Bakasura ahead is a terrifying prospect. Oh my, beads.
Beats forced, but SimonSaysSmite able to escape to the green buff. We barely out. We barely out there. Saw his life flash before his eyes, certainly. Purple buff secured for Seismic Shockwaves this time, not giving in the pressure of Eclipse again. A lot of it thanks to knowing they were mid. A very different feeling game so far than game number 1.
Well, I mean, you know, in game number 1, by 1 minute and 58 seconds, we had one more kill than we've had in the 6 minutes here. They're definitely playing a little more reserved, as I say that.
Oh, but he dashes into the execute. Simon will clean it up ultimately, but that Achilles with a fantastic play to not go down without taking somebody with him makes it 2-2 already. 6:30, and it could be 3-2. It is! The Eagle Eye finds Shadow. That's a solo kill for the Hachiman. Completely throwing what we said in its head. I guess the Hachiman's comfortable too. 3-2 now. Eclipse v Shockwaves. Not a lot of goals separating, just hit 1,000. But for 7 minutes, it went from being a game where I was surprised at how calm it was to instantly fighting across the map.
Well, naturally, we said something about it, right? Like, I was just talking about how they were playing more reserved and, you know, a little calmer, and then immediately, not 4 seconds after my breath has said those words, 2 kills immediately on the screen. Hachi getting the solo onto that Rama is big. You know, you look at the Devo stacks right now, Hachi's sitting at 24, Rama's sitting at 4. And Rama's clear to get those stacks is better. So Hachi being ahead here is huge.
if you are the Rama and you're behind on the Hachi, I'll have to wait because Simon is beelining it for the Hachimon, but did get caught off a bit by the dash. Shard used as well, but not going to chase under tower. I've always found, and you can disagree, I'm going to go ahead and say it because it's just Riblet. I've always found, like, Hachimon and Rama's able to play around Hachi in a way that I enjoy. Giant Dog comes around the side with a beautiful ultimate to get a stun across. SimonSaysSmite will clean up that Chonga regardless. However, Riblet also caught between. Sweaty following up, but Shadow's able to drop Riblet. The stun from King of Darkness buys time for Liore on the rotation. Simon's around the wall. He could jump in, but everyone's low. The unstable vortex does it, and the jump and the portal will clean it up. Well played from the Seismic Shockwaves. That was a synergy of a team that's been playing a while. But anyway, to spit my point out, I like how Rama plays into Hachimon. That's all I was trying to say. Jeez.
It, you know, like we were talking about on the desk, my hot take, I think Rama's the best ADC in the game. You know, here, that last fight, really what you had was an excellent engagement from Eclipse that turned into getting badly out-rotated by a Giannis. And that's one of the strengths that Giannis brings to your team comp, is that unless the enemy mid is playing Apollo, they are not rotating on time with you.
Apple of Discord used there just to make sure Simon got away. He did sidestep it to his credit. If Darkness goes from behind, gets the stun onto ItalianCrayon, but Liore was not in a spot to follow up, and Giant Dog was lurking around the side too, so probably best for Liore to have not full committed with King of Darkness there. Coming up in 10 minutes, 5-3, Seismic Shockwaves versus Eclipse. The gold lead has dropped even lower than I last mentioned. It's only at 300, so the big stuff to look at is experience, and it's in the ADC role again. 2 levels up, the Hachimon over the Rama right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big difference, but that shutdown, you know, over there towards that purple buff fight, that is a big difference. And as long as Shadow can just kind of play carefully here, get his waves, get his stacks, get his items, that lead that Hachi has isn't going to mean much, as long as Shadow is not trying to take 1v1s here.
Yeah, this isn't the time to do it. Like I was saying before, I kind of like the matchup. I like how it feels to play Rama into Hachi. I feel like you can kind of abuse him. But, big but here, not if you're 2.5 levels behind. Then it no longer feels good. Then you can't even contest.
Always the hairy butt lurking around the corner. Yeah, you know, almost any god matchup feels real bad from 2.5, 3 levels down. It's a big baseline stat difference. It's usually a big item difference. It just feels bad. I really, like I was saying before, you know, Shadow here just kind of needs to get his farm and avoid taking these fights until he's, you know, kind of caught back up. If Baka can get over to that side again, if they can get another pick, hang on now.
Find the pick here. Simon goes aggressive with Regurgitate. Apple of Discord responded and dropped him to half, but not before he deleted the ItalianCrayon for throwing that Apple of Discord out. Riblet also trying to get away using that Shiva Tandava. Does get away. Unstable Vortex did not quite get the catch. King of Darkness and company will step back, and Simon will take the jungle on the way out. We're coming up in 12 minutes. The beacon is about ready, and the first objective is being started. It's Gold Fury. Seismic Shockwaves have a good position set up for it, but Eclipse is not too far away. Shockwaves realize this. Simon's going to play the defense here because the solos are not here for this fight. But it looks like Eclipse are going to concede the Gold Fury in favor of the beacon and head over to the beacon, and they're going to get the beacon before the Shockwaves can get there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, good call from Eclipse here. You know, Riblet was about half health. So, you know, your front line's immediately at a disadvantage if you try to engage that. And, you know, the beacon is not as much gold as a Gold Fury, but it is a little bit. and you get that lasting buff for later in the game. I kind of like that call to give it up there.
Yeah, that's a good perspective of it, and I also like that it doesn't force you into a fight. That's a very we talked about Unstoppable Division being the lowest division inherently. You know, you're looking for kind of the rough stuff of competitive. Forcing yourself into fights you cannot win and you shouldn't take is something you have to learn. Sweaty and Riblet gonna take one. They think they can win here. They dive under tower, but Dark Pillars in the response to the snipes. And the Giannis ultimate might help out. Riblet's been taking tower a while. He's got to back out. Shadow still alive. Sweaty still diving. Tower still up. Shadow still alive and gets out of there. Riblet now the one in trouble. Unstable Vortex finds a home. Sweaty goes in, gets caught by the silence. And King of Darkness and Liore are going to win this 2v2. And Sweaty's going to drop as well. Liore, with a beautifully timed rotation, will save the dual lane. Simon will be a victim in the mid lane. But it's hard not to just look at what Liore did there, and Seismic Shockwaves should be thanking him in comms.
Oh yeah, that was a great rotation from the Giannis, and you know, again, kind of realizing that like Discordia can't match it. She has no way to get there in the same time you do, and you know, Shadow is kind of having a rough time here. He's behind, and Liore is making these rotations to make sure that that deficit doesn't get higher.
A lot of people over by Solo Landing Crusader dashed in, but they're not going to go for Crusader right now. Pyromancer is a big target for the Shockwaves. Eclipse might get caught sleeping. ItalianCrayon's nearby, but the Pyro is very low, and the Shockwaves will get it. ItalianCrayon not in time. Liore did go aggressive. Will evade the Apple of Discord. And now the spike could actually restart up, but King of Darkness could be the one in trouble. Dark Pillars for the defense was enough to set up time for SimonSaysSmite to find Riblet. Snipes come out as well and do some damage to Jaeger, which is enough for the Shockwaves to step up to the tier 1 tower. Strife finds a home, which aids in the backup. Shockwaves will look to retreat and reset. They're not going to dive as aggressive as it may have seemed. While it does feel like they've got momentum, it's still only 15 minutes in the game, so diving tier 1 could have been a bit too aggressive. As we're 9-4 at 15 minutes, Ztan, so far, what have you seen that needs to change for Eclipse?
You know, the Chang'e pick is not quite having the impact that you would hope. They're gonna have to find a way to kind of fight around it. You know, you can't go back and unpick it. So you work with what you've got. They're gonna have to survive the initial onslaught of this Bakasura of the Cthulhu ult. And the tough part about that is that that Cthulhu ult lasts so long. The Bakasura ult lasts for a while. They've also got the Dharmic Pillars. You know, the Giannis rotations are making this a really difficult place to fight into. Eclipse are going to have to get, I feel like, some solo picks. They're going to have to find some people out of position, and they're going to have to force the numbers to be in their advantage.
Forcing the numbers advantage isn't easy to do, but Seismic Shockwaves might be playing with some added confidence, not just from what we see in this game, what we saw in game 1. So maybe you can kind of work around that confidence and try to get your unfavorable fights. Primal Fury going to go the way of Seismic Shockwaves. And at 16 minutes and 9-4, that gold lead is going to get bumped up for Shockwaves and add another lead to the tally. Experience lead is more leaning Eclipse for the most part. There's some back and forth. The jungle one, again, a big difference leaning Shockwaves. So I'm curious if we'll see what Ztan's talking about, or if we'll see more momentum and more dominance from the Shockwaves.
It's a possibility. You know, you got a 2-level deficit going on in jungle. You got a 2-level deficit in solo. You know, on the other side of that, Discordia is now 2 levels over Giannis. Hachi is 2 levels over Rama. You do have an advantage because while Giannis has been rotating, Discordia has been farming.
Well, you rotated. ItalianCrayon study the sword. Achilles going to get picked up in solo dove under his own tower. Giant Dog tried to show up for response, but he gets dropped too for a double kill for the Bakasura. Seismic Shockwaves adding more to their lead and taking a tier 1 tower on the way out. That puts us at a 2k gold lead for the blue side of things. And the Seismic Shockwaves, new team name, new division, looking good so far.
Yep. The 8-1 Bakasura is where you're really starting to approach uh-oh territory if you're Eclipse. That is hard to fight into. As a giant dog and Jaeger just found out. Bakasura is going to be hitting hard. He's going to be hitting for true damage. He's going to be hitting fast, and he's going to be hitting in a cone. They're really going to have to get this shut down if they want a chance at being back in this.
Beacon started up. Ultimate does find a home in ItalianCrayon. It's a lot of poke onto the Discordia. Has to back up. SimonSaysSmite goes crazy. Finds Riblet. Snipes come out from Shadow, but does not find a gorgeous home. Crusader goes aggressive and finds Sweaty in the back line. Nothing the Achilles could do there to stop it. And the Shockwaves create the space they need to step over to the Beacon and start taking it. Tier 1 tower could be next up as Shadow's already setting up, dropping the Bastions. In the meantime, Simon's stealing more jungle away. So Shockwaves just find, every time we think that they've hit every peak spot of dominance, so to speak, they find a new place to take a new lead.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna keep harping on this Bakasura. He's now 9-1. The 4th item's getting ready to be completed. This is ideal territory for Bakasura play. You know, we touched on it on the desk, how, you know, he's not a god you want to fall behind. He's a god you want ahead, and he's there. Fighting alongside this Cthulhu, that dive, you know, Eclipse is almost kind of in a position where it would behoove them to just straight up run away. When that Bakasura and the Cthulhu dive and commit, maybe you just run away, wait for it to stop, and come back.
And worth noting, too, is, I mean, there's a couple items here and there, but physical defense right now for Eclipse is incredibly light. So true damage aside, Simon's doing numbers around that while being ahead. I mean, that's a terrible spot. Look what he's doing right now in the back line to ItalianCrayon. Dives under the tower to go on a rampage on ItalianCrayon, but does get shut down. So that's a lot of gold for the Discordia.
That is a lot of gold in the pocket of Discordia.
Is that worth it?
Not for Simon.
Simon says no.
Definitely worth it for ItalianCrayon. You know, already kind of got himself a bit of a lead built up just from not being able to out-rotate Giannis. That gold's going to go a long way. It looks like he's going into the ethereal staff here. I couldn't imagine it's going to be a gem of ISO. So, you know, he's going to be on his 4th item pretty soon. Yep, there it is. You know, he's got that 4th item online. His damage is there. You know, he's approaching that late game territory. The damage is there. Eclipse have good points. I would like to say that Rama has now caught up.
Which is a problem, because one of the strengths that we saw last game was how ahead Sweaty was. Riblet looking to drop. Simon Says is just chasing him down. Regurgitate for good measure. Nothing you can do. Level 12 Shiva. No defense. There's just nothing you can do there. Doesn't even have a fully stacked Gauntlet of Thieves. It's only at 32. There is just no way to survive that Bakasura. And the Seismic Shockwaves at 21 minutes, leading 15-5 in the side of A. This is a good time for the Fire Giant. They step into the pit, and it doesn't look like anyone is even aware. Because you can see that the Crusaders playing defense, but there's nobody to defend against. That's going to be a free Fire Giant for the Shockwaves.
Yeah, if I'm Eclipse here, especially Shiva, I was just about to mention it, you know, maybe you look at like a Midgardian Mail, maybe you look at a Relic Dagger with the Witchblade upgrade. You have got to find your way to build into being able to survive this Bakasura. Because right now he's
doing
just
that
running.
right now too. Because if you look, he actually skipped an item and went ahead. So They're definitely feeling the effects of what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, as I was getting ready to make that point, Shiva, I saw the item crop up down there. It looks like he's going into it. You know, you're gonna have to build it. You're just gonna have to. Something has to be done about this Bakasura.
Crusader diving deep and in to his ultimate form, running down Eclipse, buying time for the Seismic Shockwaves to catch up. And look across the map. They're not caught in a great spot. Shadow Snipes find a home onto Sweaty, and the Seismic Shockwaves run past the Tier 2 tower with a focus on blood. They find Riblet, they find Giant Dog. Everyone's showing up one for one. Discordia not even around, so the Tier 2 tower are going to fall to the Seismic Shockwaves in duo lane. They might look for Phoenix here. They're stepping into the Phoenix. They've got bombs galore, so they get a Phoenix. And Eclipse can't even respond.
Yeah, I'm not positive, you know, what Discordia saw on that left side of the map that, you know, made her kind of want to go check that out up there. But you know, they're definitely feeling the effects of it now. That Phoenix went down completely for free. Although I get, you know, to be fair, what does Discordia do into that 5-stack other than die?
Yeah.
You know, maybe she just went to claim some farm. There's an argument that that's the best thing she could do right now.
Pyromancer will go the way of the Shockwaves, replenishing their bombs that they just used on the duo side of Phoenix, the best Phoenix to get, as many will tell you. It's 10k gold as we get close to 25 minutes. It's 18-5. The Seismic Shockwaves can do no wrong, and this is a much more dominant game than we saw in game number 1. Game number 1, it felt like Eclipse had a fighting chance at more than one opportunity, or excuse me, occasion. But the opportunities in this game have been rare and impossible to come by. The beacon has played a small part in that, certainly. Everything's played a small part, but it all grows into big parts. And I asked you the same question, I feel like 5 times today, between casting Immortal, casting Unstoppable, Ztan. But what can Eclipse do on this defense? Is there anything they can do, or are they just kind of playing Titan defense for the rest of this game? It's still early.
Well, you know, yeah, it's 25 minutes. But I will, for the probably 5th time this match, direct your attention to the Bakasura. That build is full. It is completed.
He did just that. He dashed in on Jaeger, dropped in the half health. That's the Achilles, by the way.
You know, that build is complete. We are 24 minutes in, and this man is upgrading relics. As Eclipse right now, your Shiva can't survive him. Your Achilles can't survive him. Your team can't survive him. This is a prey moment.
Can the Phoenix survive? Then the Shockwaves step in early. Through space and time, use the Snipes to follow up, and the Snipes find a home onto Jaeger. He's down to 1 HP, and Crusader will clean it up, but SimonSaysSmite was dropped by Sweaty. The Baka's out of the fight. That's 12-3 Baka out of the fight, but they still have got Crusader. Double kill for the Cthulhu, and they get the mid-Phoenix. The Shockwaves are going to call that enough for the time being because they got a Titan to deal with. That Titan's not even going to meet the other Titan in mid lane. It's dead before it crosses the path of the tier 2 tower. So the Shockwaves are going to retreat to their Titan, reset, maybe look to get EFG while their Titan's pushing up. This is a great play, and it makes it even more impossible for Eclipse to do anything.
Yeah, you know, you're asking what can they do here, and all you can really do here is, you know, throw a shout to the wind, make your stand, and try it. You know, Sweaty did a great job on that last engage of, you know, doing damage to the Bakasura. He did actually kill Bakasura. They ran him out of that fight. They killed him. So, you know, there are positive notes, but, you know, Cthulhu's doing more damage than Bakasura as a whole. So that's the problem when you're fighting into this, is like, okay, we killed Bakasura. Great. Now we have to worry about Cthulhu, who is also capable of killing half our team.
EFG is down to a quarter, but Shadow has taken a lot of damage from the EFG. But Riblet was not able to get inside. The snipe almost hit, but Simon Says cleaned it up anyway. So Liore and Shadow will have time to heal up. The Seismic Shockwaves are beelining it for duo lane to clean up the 1 HP Phoenix. If I'm Eclipse, I'm dreading the onslaught that's on its way.
Yeah, you know, Rama should be able to lifesteal off a camp or a couple of minions to kind of clean up his health pool. Him and Liore are kind of low here, but I feel like Eclipse just can't fight into it. And
they have to fight in their
they're
Titan, basically.
They're just kind of backing off. It looks like all the Phoenixes are gonna go down, and there's just not much. That's what they've got to hope for. That is your only hope if you're Eclipse at this point, is a overcommit from Shockwaves and a full DSI.
Here comes the light commit. Now it's a full commit. Crusaders in deep. Liore and King of Darkness looking to set up, and Shadow has come back. Liore actually goes through a portal to reset, and look behind. SimonSaysSmite has arrived. Riblet gets dropped by Shadow. Simon finds Jaeger. Cthulhu still standing in the throne room, but he had to come out of the ultimate form, and when he did, he died. ItalianCrayon got the credit. Health bars on blue are a bit low, so they're backing up. They're actually leaving the Titan up because they can't continue the fight. Through space and time goes wide left, but Simon goes right in, looking for Giant Dog, but ItalianCrayon was behind him, and they're going to find the kill onto the Bakasura, who dove too deep without King of Darkness. The Seismic Shockwaves had a fantastic opportunity. Admittedly, they still do, but it's impossible not to say they didn't flounder that.
Yeah, you know, if you're Eclipse, not like best case scenario, but it was still a great case scenario. You bought yourself time. Now, it's not going to be enough time to get all of your birds back up. You're still going to have to make another defense, but the bright note here is that you did make the defense.
What else can you do, though? I mean, at this point, if you're Eclipse, when we said it, we said the answer is a D-aside, but that's, I mean, surely that's a ridiculous premise to play on, but you have no other choice. There's no sneaky play. There's no back way around it. So let's try to zoom in a little bit. Target priority. Gotta be Simon Says, right?
You know, you would think that, but we saw them try that just a few minutes ago, and they did get Simon. And Cthulhu proceeded to run through their team.
You get through the rest, you have Liore.
You know, they can't split push. They can't really contest this fire, not with two Phoenixes down. You've got your mid Phoenix that just came back up, and Shockwaves are pushing down like they're going to take it.
Bakasura is in left lane with an Oni Fury wave. That's huge and important. Keep your eye on it, because so far it's being pushed in far. Crusader goes in mid, has Shadow and King of Darkness with him, and goes into the back line. Through space and time, finds a home and does a lot of damage, and Crusader cleans up ItalianCrayon, and more to follow. That's one gone, that's two gone, it's continuing. They're in the throne room, that's three. They want even more than that. Jaeger and Riblet, the last two to defend. There is going to be 4. Double kill for Shadow. 1 left, but not needed. Simon Says game. The Seismic Shockwaves take it 2-0 on Eclipse. They tried and they tried and they tried, Ztan, but Eclipse could not stop the onslaught of the Seismic Shockwaves, and they take the set 2-0. The first set we broadcast of the Unstoppable Division was certainly an exciting one, and I honestly think it beat expectations.
It was a good game. It was a good set. You know, Eclipse kind of got into the unfortunate territory there in that second game of there was an enemy combatant who was so far ahead, a team that was so far ahead that there just wasn't much you could do to fight it off.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm Eclipse looking into this next week, I'm going to go over this VOD a couple of times because they had bright points, they had good fights, they had some good decisions. So you need to focus on those even coming off of a loss like this, because there's a lot you can improve on. Great game from Seismic Shockwaves. Simon, Liore, Crusader, these guys are definitely going to be some guys to watch moving into the further parts of the season.
I think the big thing for me with the Seismic Shockwaves and kind of what to look for from them is they've clearly got an insane two-man group in mid. They've got an ADC who's clearly got some skill. They have a solo laner not afraid to frontline and to put in the work. Get your support to be right up in there with you and lock down the rules, and you've got it worked out. And I think you made some great points as well for Eclipse, but ultimately that's going to do it for us. That was the first set from the Unstoppable Division for the Smite Draft League, and if you like what you saw, make sure you're on the Smite Draft League YouTube and the Twitch, because we have 3 other divisions and 8 teams in each one, all full of content like that. I've been AnthonyMalum, joined by Ztan. Thank you to Katt for camming and Nooblet for production, and we'll see you next time on the Smite Draft League.